big new release from Titleist. They had the 2, they had the 3, they had the 4, and people are sitting there going,
"Where's the 1?
Where's the 1?" So the Titleist TS1 driver is getting released today. So,
announced today. Yes.
Announced today.
Available
So,
end of the month-ish.
For those that don't know anything, that's a badass looking driver to me.
It looks really good.
But a badass looking driver that's made for moderate swing speeds, Tony? What the hell is that? I've never heard of a driver made for moderate swing speeds.
It's Titleist's entry into the ultralight category. So this is sort of the competitor to the Zexios, the Wilson D-Series stuff. Back in the day, remember Callaway had FT Optiforce, which I absolutely loved. It's that kind of thing. It's lightweight, so head weight is down about, total weight of the driver is about 45 grams lighter than you would get from a typical driver on the market. So that's really the distinguishing feature of the TS1.
What do you think of that thing, Harry? You like that?
I actually love the look of it. I'm guessing.
You're not moderate swing speed.
I'm not that moderate. I think it would feel way too light, and I would have no clue what the hell.
You could lose 50 miles an hour of swing speed, and you'd still be kind of borderline on that.
Before we get into the cool like swing speed or distance average thing, like why do you think Titleist is jumping into the space? Zexio kind of, I
think it's smart.
So our data has it really shown that there are drivers out there that are made for moderate swing speeds that actually perform better for moderate swing speeds. We've kind of seen a little bit of the opposite, right? The driver like the Callaway Epic Flash Sub-Zero that's made for the high swing speed guy being the #1 driver for the moderate swing speed.
Well, the thing to keep in mind, too, is that what we call slow in our test is actually, we are on, our slow is on the high end of what the industry calls moderate. So, our lowest swing speed guys tend to be in the 78 mile an hour range, and we just have 1 or 2 of them. The rest of our slower swing speed guys are 85-ish. Some are even a little above that. And so what Titleist is saying is the TS1 is really for guys who swing below 85 miles an hour. So,
all right, so what's the average
little bit of fluff in that number, but 85 is a nice round number that people can remember. So that's kind of your starting point for your demographic is 85 miles an hour and below.
So was looking at the article that's going out and pretty shocked. I mean, to see what is the average distance for the average golfer off the tee.
So this comes from, we want to be clear, so this comes from a 2018 USGA study, which includes data from 2017, I believe. And this was a study on the average club golfer, which is probably a little bit different demographic than the market as a whole. But the average distance for the golfers in this study off the tee, you ready for it? 208 yards.
Kaboom.
Roll it back.
Nailed it.
Roll back the ball. We're hitting it too far.
Please. Goodness me.
So 208 yards, right? That sounds a lot shorter than I would have thought, right? Now,
it's a little shorter than what Harry hits it, for example.
But then people are going, well, what about like better golfers, like 6 to 12 handicappers? How far do they hit it?
That's the number they gave me, 6 to 12. And if you look at that handicap range, there is a massive jump all the way up to 212 yards. Woo! So these are, kaboom, baby.
And one hell of a short game.
So the average drive's 208 to 212 yards, and that's the driver that most golfers sound like they should be playing is something like this then.
So this is, again, right? Every driver released is ostensibly a marketing and sales opportunity for somebody. And so what Titleist did was look at the guys, again, these club golfers, which is still kind of the meat of Titleist market, right? They heavily in green grass. And so, when they looked at these guys, they saw a ton of Vokey wedges, a lot of Cameron putters, some Titleist fairway woods, and a splattering of Taylor or Titleist irons, but not a ton of Titleist drivers. And when they sort of look deeper into it, a lot of guys will say, well, Titleist doesn't make a driver for me. And again, some of that is perception, right, versus reality. But the mindset was, hey, Titleist is still, and this is, I think Titleist is trying to actually make an effort to shed a little bit of this, right? But Titleist for a long time had this image of being not just for better players, but exclusively for better players, right?
That's a good point.
even if you're a low handicap golfer and you only hit it 208 yards, you may have the mindset that, hey, the Titleist doesn't make a driver for me. And so by creating a driver that's going to launch a little higher, going to generate a little more spin, a little more club head speed, right? Because it's substantially lighter than what you typically find in the market. That's going to hopefully give that guy who's only hitting it 208 yards a little bit more, maybe in certain circumstances, a lot more than what they have right now.
Now, do you know the percentage of golfers in the club golfers that have that mile-an-hour swing? Do we know that?
I don't have that number.
But I
can only look at what happens at my home club, McGregor Links, and our membership. I would say in our membership, in golf, what I see is a little bit of weird, right? You have young guys, and by young guys I mean 40-year-olds, right? That's the young membership, and the old guys, 70-year-olds, and not necessarily a ton in the middle right now. And I think once you get outside of that young guy demographic, which is certainly the minority at McGregor Links, yeah, we have a lot of guys who would kill for the extra 20 yards that gets them to 208.
Yeah, and just from growing up, but when I was growing through junior rankings, I went from junior clubs to ladies clubs to men's clubs. I guarantee it's a very smart marketing ploy, because going in from that transition from junior to if you swing a little bit too fast for a ladies club, which they class ladies clubs these days, but not fast enough for a men's club, that could be a good fit.
Yeah, well, we'll see, right? I mean, like,
I'm interested to see what happens when we get in for testing.
Yeah, one thing is true. I remember working at the pro shop, and people that would walk in that weren't good golfers would actually say, I can't play those clubs. And I would say, why do you think that? Oh, those are titles. Those are only for good players, So that is a real problem they have.
It's part of their brand perception for sure.
Yeah, and they are changing that. And you've seen that in the last couple of years. Tony and I talk about quite a lot behind the scenes of the perceptual changes that are happening there. And I think it's a good thing. But that being said, too, that lightweight driver, the Zexio, the Wilson versions of it, more companies are doing it. But do you see that when testers come in here and play those drivers during testing, not the overall data, right? But when they come in and hit those drivers that are supposedly built for them, do they like them more?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and that goes for not only the drivers but also the irons. We've got Zexio right now going in our Super Game Improvement iron test, and the guys that are swinging those really short, I take that back. The guys that are slower swing speeds, they're loving the
moderate swing speed golfers.
Sorry, moderate swing speed golfers.
But Zexio kind of owns that space, so
yeah,
you're seeing people come in here and really like that.
But even still, the D7, people are loving the Wilson D7s. The moderate swing speed golfer guys.
What do they say? Like, why do they like it in words?
They see increased distance. They see increased club head speed. In most cases, they see increased launch angle and spin rate.
So they need to get the ball up. They're seeing that.
And that's one of the things that we struggle with in testing, is that we get clubs in that now you see this shift in driver design where everyone's low spin, low spin, low spin, and we're getting the guys with moderate swing speeds, and they can't keep the damn ball in the air.
They can't, but once again, what we find is those drivers are being the best strokes gain numbers for them.
Well, and it goes the longest.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't.
And that's the thing, longest and also the straightest. And I think this is one point I want to bring up about the Titleist. Like, a lot of what you see in the ultralight space is, again, as the name suggests, right? You're shaving weight everywhere you possibly can. Now, Titleist only took 8 grams out of the head, and that's not to say 8 grams is an insignificant amount. But when you look at kind of the driver market as a whole, within sort of that mainstream portion, right, the meat of the bell curve, the difference in weight from a heavy driver in that space to a lightweight in that space, again, if you're looking at just the head, is plus or minus 8 grams. Like, you're kind of right in that ballpark anyway, right? The Pings and PXG tend to be on the heavier side, above 200. The Callaways are down in the low to mid 290s, for example. So you're not seeing a massive shift there. You're sort of just kind of stepping down from where they are now, or where heads are now. But they shave 20 grams out of the grip. They've got shaft weights in ladies flexes that are, plus or minus right around 30 grams. So they're kind of taking it from everywhere. And the part that I really like in this design is the shaft length is only going to be 45.75 inches, which is, a little long for my taste. But if you look at what you typically find in that ultralight space, it's on paper, it's 46, and Sam will tell you we've measured some of the ultralights at 46.25. So, you know, and if Titleist says it's 45.75, that's right about where it's going to be. You know, individual tolerances aside, it's not a case where, you know, Titleist is going to say, hey, we'll call it 45 on 45.75 on paper, and we'll cut everything to 46.25. It's going to play. It's going to be shorter shaft length than most, which means you're going to get the club head speed, but you shouldn't sacrifice too much in the way of control. Now, generally, what I find when I play with the lower swing speed, moderate swing speed guys, is they're in the fairway a lot more often than I am anyway. But you know, they're going to stay in the fairway with this.
So, a badass looking driver made for guys and women that have moderate swing speeds. Finally, right? So, an option that isn't really out there. I mean, the Zexios and all those aren't really badass looking to me. So,
and they're not out there to the extent that a Titleist is out there.
That is correct too. So it's more available to more golfers.
And it's less expensive than an Zexio.
A little kind of interesting tidbit about this driver that most people might not remember or know is this driver has a number 1 on it. And Tony, what was the last Titleist driver to have a number 1 on it?
To the best of my recollection, the one that popped into my head, the only one I could find digging up research, was the 907 D1.
Why do you
remember that one?
what do you remember about that driver?
It was boxy. I remember it was pretty
boxy.
No,
it's the opposite of boxy.
It was the opposite of boxy. It was
oh wait, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it was a triangle.
I had one of those. I could not hit it. I could not hit it straight. I pulled everything
they
left.
Like triangles.
They were.
That's right.
So everybody else went square. Nike and everybody else, Callaway. You know,
Callaway,
and they went triangle.
I had one.
Yeah.
Right, so
all dealer green.
So not many people remember them, and why don't many people remember those drivers? Probably, Tony.
I think Titleist would prefer nobody remember those drivers. I mean, it was. I think what I used in the article was the phrase "distinctively un-Titleist," right? I mean, it didn't look like a Titleist with the triangular shape. It wasn't going to appeal to better players or pretty much any player, I guess. And who knows? It could be oversight. We'll see what happens when somebody at Titleist sees this video. But it has been scrubbed from the website. So if you go to Titleist and they have an entire section for previous models, and there is, I mean, it goes back years and years and years before I ever picked up a golf club. But certainly I can't say it's the only one missing. There may be others, but the 907 D1 as well as its complement, the D2, have been scrubbed from Titleist history.
If you don't want people to remember, just delete it from your history.